Hi, folks. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you all. Deidre, you should know that I've told everyone about the Nun line in the Ashrei. Thank you, Deidre, for excavating the Dead Sea Scrolls from Qumran with your bare hands and discovering that the Nun stands for Ne'eman, not no fail. No, really. Thank you for doing that research. Pretty remarkable, very inspiring.
Shout out Dr. Kip Davis for just responding to my text message within like 10 minutes.
There we go. May we all find teachers who can track down the most obscure research assignments. And let us say, Amen. All right. Hi, folks. It's not Thursday night, it's Wednesday night. Thank you for whatever rearranging of your schedules you did to join us tonight. The reason we're not meeting tomorrow night is because tomorrow night is Purim. So we'll be gathering once again as a community at IKAR's event space and virtually for our Megillah reading and spiel and party and wouldn't want to conflict with an intro to the prayer book class when there's Purim festivities to be enjoyed. So thank you for being here tonight. I think we have a little bit of a smaller crew, which means there's more opportunity for you all to showcase your voices. Just kidding. You can keep your microphones off the whole time, but I do love seeing your lips moving, singing along. So thanks to the folks here with cameras on. Helps me feel a little bit less crazy seeing your faces while I'm singing at my screen. Okay, so as we've done in previous classes, what I would like to do is start with a review of the material that we covered last class, and then we'll launch into some new material, which today is Torah service material. I should say that this is the last of our scheduled classes. And we will have covered really a healthy percentage of what we do together on a Shabbat morning. So I'm, of course, open to picking this back up at some point, but I feel proud, and you all should feel proud of what we learned in 5 weeks of time together. And I hope that the emails that I've sent you with the recordings and the handouts and all of that are resources that you can revisit and review so that you continue to engage with the learning even if the class isn't meeting regularly. And I'm always happy to hear specific feedback or requests about what the experience was like or what you'd like to learn moving forward, and I'll do my best to respond either to everyone as a full offering or individually if it's a particular request. Okay. So, as I said, we're going to start with a review of last week's material. Last week, we looked at the Amidah, which shows up in two places in the Shabbat morning service. The Shacharit Amidah, which is right after the Shema, the blessings after the Shema and the Michamocha. And then the Musaf Amidah, which we do right after the sermon at IKAR. And part of what I pointed out is that the first 2 pages of the Amidah is identical in both places, right? So if you learn the first 2 pages, you can apply it in both places. What is a little bit different is that third page, what we call the Kedusha. There's some overlap. Some of the key verses are the same from the Shacharit to the Musaf Kedusha, and the Lador Vador prayer is the same, but some of the language in between is a little bit different. So we focused on the Musaf Amidah. So that's what we're going to review right now. I'll share my screen so that we can look at it all together. Okay, I think this is the right one to press. All right, just give me a thumbs up. Do you see the Amidah on your screen? I'm gonna have it as two sides of the screen so that you can follow along in transliteration as well. All right, and now I'll make it a little bit bigger. All right, so if you recall there we go. I explained last week that the first two pages of the Amidah are chanted in what's called nusach, which is the melodic, I don't know what the right word is, set that we apply to all of Shabbat morning services. So if it's not a fixed song, the melody that you're hearing is what's called nusach. And there's different nusachim for Shabbat morning versus Shabbat afternoon versus weekday versus high holiday. That's why, different moments in the Jewish calendar have a little bit of a different feel. Like the music sounds a little bit different. It's both because of the set pieces and because of the nusach, which is different from one to the next. So what you're going to hear right now is me chanting the first two pages of the Musaf Amidah in the standard Shabbat morning nusach. All right, so here we are where it says Avot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham ve'Elohei Sarah Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Rivka Elohei Yaakov ve'Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר, ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח, Umorid Hagashem, we say up until Pesach. Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayim Meitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Rofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. Now we are on the third page, which is the Kedusha. I didn't teach this melody last time, but I sent it as a recording, so I'll just sing it to you. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך. Ay nay 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 ya na 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 nay ay nay 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 ya na 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 nay ay nay 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 ya na 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 nay ay nay 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 na 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 nay. IKAR zel zev yamar, and then the congregation responds, Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melochol haaretz kivodo. And then we learn this melody that will apply to the next two stanzas. Kivodo malei olam mishar tavsho alim ze laze. Kivodo malei olam Meshar tavsho alim ze laze, ayemekom kevodo. Oh, ay na nay nay, ay na nay nay nay. Oh, ay na nay nay, ay na nay nay nay. Oh, ay nay nay, ay nay nay nay. Nay nay nay, aye, aye. aye, aye. Aye, 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 aye. Aye, aye, aye. Aye, 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 aye. Leumatam Baruch Yomeru. And then the congregation responds, Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimekomo. ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחונם יחד עם שמו ערב ובוקר וכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים ממקומו הוא יפן ay, ay, nay, nay, ay, nay, nay, nay. Oh, ay, nay, nay, ay, nay, nay, nay. Oh, ay, nay, nay, ay, nay, nay, nay. Oh, 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 nay, 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 ay, 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 ay. Aye, 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 aye. And then sometimes will repeat Hamayim be'ahava, Shema omrim. And then congregation responds Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Typically, the next stanza, instead of singing, he will just chant in nusach, especially if he's done kivodo and mimkomo with a melody that has lots of repetition. So it'll sound just something like this. Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Hu Yashminu Brachamav Shenit Le'enei Kol Chai. Liot lachem le'Elohim. Let me get to the transliteration. Sorry. Where'd it go? It's on this side. There we go. Okay, so Liot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, u'b'divrei kodshecha katuv lemor, yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Tzion, ledor vador, hallelujah. And now let's sing together the melody we learned last week for ledor vador. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, יהיה מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. איי ניי 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 Ay, nay, 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 nay. Nay, na, 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 nay, nay, nay. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. And then we would turn to a few minutes of quiet personal prayer. Okay. How familiar did that feel? That's what we learned last week. Did it come back? A little bit trickier. Some nods, some vertical nods, some horizontal nods. They're all nods. They're all nods. Just some say yes, we learned it, and some say we'll need more practice. All right. So, folks, as I said before, we're going to spend some time looking at the Torah service today. So let me just locate you chronologically. The opening 15 minutes or so of the service is what we call Psuke de Zimra, verses of praise. Those are the very musical, spiritual warm-up songs that we sing at the beginning. That's your Baruch She'amar. That's your Kili Olam Chasto. That's your Psalm 148, Psalm 150, right? Hallelujah or Hallelujah. Okay, that's Psuke de Zimra. We move from Psuke all the way through Nishmat Kochai, Tvarechet Shimcha. That's the end of Psuke. And then finally, by around 9:45, we reach the beginning of Shacharit. The first prayer in Shacharit that we looked at was the Baruch Hu, right? The call to prayer, which is the call and response. Shacharit includes El Adon, which we didn't learn, but I sent you a recording of, and then all of the blessings leading up to the Shema, and then after the Shema, right? That's Or Chadash Shatzion Ta'ir, into Ahava Rabbah, into the Shema, and then the various paragraphs that follow, and then finally into Michamocha, which we also learned, right? Mihi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, which heads into the Amidah, which we just practiced. Okay, at the end of the Amidah, it is our custom at IKAR, not every synagogue does this, but it is our custom to insert mourner's Kaddish at the end of the Amidah before the Torah service. Traditionally, you actually wouldn't recite mourner's Kaddish until the last 5 minutes of the service. That's what you will find in, I don't know, maybe 95% of the synagogues that I've ever been to place mourner's Kaddish only at the very end of the service. But IKAR's tradition is to add a mourner's Kaddish into the morning, the end of Shacharit, right before Torah service. And I've heard Rabbi Brous talk about this. She learned this custom from Rabbi Cheryl Peretz, who is one of the deans at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies, and she's a IKAR regular. Some of you maybe know her or have met her. And when Rabbi Peretz was saying Kaddish for her mother, she reflected to Rabbi Brous that in some ways, when you are a mourner and you enter that space, you are waiting anxiously for the moment in the service where you can stand up as a mourner in front of your community and acknowledge your grief and let your heart tap into that reason for being present in the service that morning. And so to wait a full 2.5, 3 hours to be able to access that moment felt like an unnecessary pain point for folks who are already carrying so much grief into services. And so Rabbi Brous took that reflection from Rabbi Peretz and added a mourner's Kaddish into the end of Shacharit right before the Torah service. And the truth is, we're not going to spend time looking at mourner's Kaddish or Kaddish Shalem or Chatzi Kaddish, but perhaps you all have noticed that the Kaddishes have pretty much all the same words, right? There's a half version of it and a full version of it, and there's a version which takes away, one stanza, but more or less, this prayer is all Yitkadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah through Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Although the Chatzi Kaddish doesn't have Oseh Shalom Bimromav, right? But it has the same structure to it. And what makes these prayers feel so different, honestly, is the tone or the music which we apply to it. I mean, just feel in your body for a moment the difference between Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Amen versus Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. I imagine your body did something different. Same words, different melody. And so it is traditional at the end of Shacharit to insert a a Chatzi Kaddish. And so because the Kaddish, Chatzi Kaddish and full Kaddish, is used in the service as a service separator. When you finish one service and you transition into the next, you have a Kaddish, which is why we also have a Chatzi Kaddish right before the Musaf Amidah, because we're transitioning from the Torah service into the Musaf service. It is a signal to the community that we are entering into a different liturgical space. And so I'm giving you more information than you need right now about this, but this is all a way of explaining that, the move which Rabbi Brous made for our community of putting Mourner's Kaddish at the end of Shacharit is both radical and traditional. Right? It's radical because it is an insertion of an additional Mourner's Kaddish, responding to this emotional pastoral need that was expressed. But it's traditional because it is the transition moment between Shacharit and Torah service. So in a sense, all she did was sub out a Chatzi Kaddish for a Mourner's Kaddish, of which the words, as I said before, are overlapping. So that takes us through the end of Shacharit. If you're looking at your clock on a Saturday morning, it's somewhere around 10:15, 10:20 Pacific time, something like that. And we are now making our way into the Torah service. When we have a B'nai Mitzvah, or 2:20 a.m. if you're a tzadeket davening from Japan. And so when we have a B'nai Mitzvah at IKAR, this is when we would call up the B'nai Mitzvah family, and this is when the kid and their grown-ups, stare out at all of the people who are, making goo goo gaga loving eyes at them to try to disarm them and make them feel not so nervous. So that's what we're going to focus on today, the prayers of the Torah service. Now, the Torah service refers to a couple of different things. The prayers leading up to the opening of the ark, the taking out of the Torah, the prayers that we recite as we process the Torah around the community, right? The circle that we do as people take their talit or their prayer book and kiss the Torah as it goes around. The Torah service also includes the actual chanting from the Torah scroll. And in many ways, that is the high point of the Torah service, of which all the prayers before and then after, the prayers that we recite as we return the Torah to the ark, are all in support of the central drama of the Torah service, which is the chanting from the actual Torah. And I think it's important to say that the rationale that the rabbis provide, right? Why should we chant from the Torah on a Saturday morning? Why do we actually do that? The rabbis have an extraordinary view of time. They view time as both progressing linearly, but also unfolding as a spiral. And so the rabbis believe that at any given moment, we can be both advancing the story and revisiting an older moment in our history or in our mythic history. And we know this well, by the way, from holidays, right? I mean, Shabbat itself is a mythic revisiting of the seventh day of creation, right? Just as God rested and ceased from creation on the seventh day, so do we. We sort of we re-inhabit the 7 days of creation over and over and over again. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest, right? Think about the holidays, right? On Passover, the idea is not just to tell the story of what happened a long time ago, but to reenact the liberation, the Exodus story from Egypt, right? To engage in rituals like the Seder, which are meant to help us feel that we were once slaves in Egypt, and the Chol Dor Vador, in every generation, we are to see ourselves as if we personally left Egypt, right? That is a relationship to time that understands, that blends in some ways present and past. Okay? And so the reason I'm saying this is because the rabbis understand the weekly Torah reading as a reenactment of the Sinai experience. Exactly. The reenactment of standing once again at the base of Mount Sinai with all of the pyrotechnics, with all of the drama of that the Torah records, right? With the thunder and the lightning and the people waiting to receive, the people at attention, trying to hang on to every word, the people saying, proclaiming that we na'aseh v'nishma, right? We accept the terms of what is being said to us right now. The Torah service, in a sense, is meant to reenact that drama, right? And so that's why there's a um, there's almost a drama to the Torah service, right? I mean, you open the ark and the people rise, and we bring the Torah out, and there's this big call and response, right? Shema Yisrael, and the community responds, Shema Yisrael, right? The processing, everyone who's able, kissing the Torah as a way of saying, I accept this cherished gift, right? This belongs to me. I value what's being given to me right now. And then we stand at attention, right? We don't stand, although I have to tell you, there are communities, a lot of Sephardic communities, where the custom is to stand for the full duration of the Torah reading. How's that? If we were to do that at IKAR, we'd have to really cut back on our gabaying. You heard it here first. Okay, if we were to make you stand for all that time. Okay, so the Torah is being chanted, and we are trying to be, fully attentive to what's happening, because this is our Sinai revelation moment, right? Um, and then we bid farewell, right? But we do it with the same honor and respect that we do when we take out the Torah, right? We don't just put the Torah away, Thanks for showing up today, Torah. I got my dose of revelation. No, Hagba. We lift the Torah up, right? For everyone to see. I mean, there's a real dramatic choreography here, right? And then we wrap it and we dress it back in its fancy adornments. I mean, I can point out here. I mean, think about how the Torah is dressed, right? It has the wimple, as I learned, right? It has the belt around it. It has the covering on it. It's not so in our community, but some Torah scrolls have the breastplate mimicking the adornment of the high priest, right? I mean, the sort of most revered. This is the most revered clothing, in a sense, right? We dress the Torah in the most revered clothing, and we don't just put it away anywhere. We put it back into the ark, right? Mimicking the sacred place that the Ten Commandments, right? The Ark of the Covenant, where the Ten Commandments were placed in the tabernacle and then the temple. So there's a sort of a mimicking not just of the Sinai revelation experience, but of where this precious revered object was kept in the wilderness. We're reenacting it with high priest imagery, with tabernacle imagery, with Sinai imagery, right? And so we bid farewell with one more procession, kissing it and saying, I'll see you next time. All right, so that's the dramatic choreography of the Torah service. And I hope that having some sense of, what this is all about, how the rabbis envisioned it, and why they structure it the way they do, will give you some points of connection to the actual liturgy that we're going to be learning and the meaning of it, which we'll spend just a little bit of time looking at. I chose today to do more of a 10,000-foot view. This is what the Torah service is all about. And we'll spend a little bit less time focusing on the specific liturgy with one or two exceptions. But anyway, that's the Torah service from 10,000 feet. Any questions about what I've explained before we start singing together? Or comments, reflections, anything you've seen, Leah?
Is it true that the Torah's scrolls at IKAR are Holocaust survivors?
To my knowledge, we have three Torah scrolls that live in our ark. To my knowledge, one of them is Shoah Torah, meaning it was a Torah that was saved from the destruction of the Nazis, was hidden and then saved and then found its way to IKAR. Forgive me that I don't know the full story of that particular Torah scroll, and I'm not sure what the origin story is of the other two Torah scrolls that we use. Okay. I mean, I will say, I always think, I mean, we're using the imagery of the high priest, but for me, um, the way we treat the Torah feels a little bit more like how we treat a baby. I don't, and I mean this in the sweetest sense, right? Meaning the worst possible thing is to drop the Torah, right? We are so careful with it. We dress it up beautifully like a little doll, right? We have a little crib that we put it into. We parade it around the room for everyone to ooh and ah and for everyone to kiss it. Um, we are so careful in the way that we handle it, right? There's a fragility to the Torah, just like there's a kind of a fragility to holding a baby, right? But we're so proud of it, right? We want everyone to see it. And we hold it up, but we play with it a little bit, right? Like you throw up a baby. I'm not advising that you do that. I'm just saying some people, that's how they play with their babies, right? We hold it up, but you want to make sure that the person who's doing that is going to do it safely. So I think that there's yes, the high priest, yes, Sinai, but there's also a kind of a intimacy and tenderness and playfulness that accompanies our treatment of the Torah scroll that reminds me of how we treat a baby. Okay. All right. Let's learn some music and some liturgy. Let me get us to the right screen. All right. No matter how many times I set it up in advance, the PDF hides from me. Okay, just give me a thumbs up that you can see Ein Kamocha in transliteration on the right. Good. And you see the Hebrew. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you. There we go, on the left. Yes? Yes. Okay. All right, here we go, one line at a time. You'll repeat after me. Ein kamocha, you try. Ein kamocha, va'elohim Adonai, you try. Va'elohim Adonai. Listen, I'm going to put those two phrases together. Ein kamocha, va'elohim Adonai, you try. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai. Let's do it again. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai. Listen. Ve'ein kema'asecha. You try. Ve'ein kema'asecha. Again. Ve'ein kema'asecha. I'm going to do that whole line. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. Okay, that melody repeats for the next line. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, you try. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, again. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, you try. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, listen. Umemshaltcha bechol dor vador. Umemshaltcha bechol dor vador, again. Umemshaltcha bechol dor vador. Right? Do you hear the musical parallels? Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, malchutcha, malchut kol olamim, ve'ein kema'asecha. Umemshaltcha bechol dor vador. So same music for those first two lines. So let's do those first two lines, or really three lines in the Hebrew, all together twice. Okay, ready? Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, umemshaltcha bechol dor vador, again. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, umemshaltcha bechol dor vador. Next part goes like this. Adonai melech, you try. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. All right, well, let's do that line in two parts. Repeat after me. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, you try. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Let's do it again. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. The next line, we're here, right? Adonai os. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai os, le'amo yiten, you try. Adonai os, le'amo yiten. Again. Adonai os, le'amo yiten, you try. Adonai os, le'amo yiten. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. You try. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. So again, those two lines, it's the same musical phrase for both of those lines, right? Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai os le'amo yiten. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. All right, so sometimes I think it's helpful, right, to sort of to realize, like, it sounds like I just sang 6 lines of music, but to know that it was actually 2 musical phrases, right, each repeated twice, can help your brain arrange the melody to these words a little bit easier, right? So it's sort of, you know, A, B, B, essentially. All right. So you think we can try to sing this whole paragraph together? Okay, here we go. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. B. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. All right, very good, I think. Next lines, Av Harachamim. Listen to how it goes. Av Harachamim, Heitiv Avirtzoncha et Zion. Does that sound familiar? Yes, not just because you've been to IKAR before, but because it's A again. We're back to the first musical phrase, right? Ein kamocha ve'elohim Adonai, ahav harachamim, heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion. So the next two, it's going to follow the same musical pattern. So let's just try that line. I'll sing it and then you'll repeat after me. Or the benefit of doing this over Zoom is you can sing it with me and then sing it again with me when you're repeating after me. Okay? Av harachamim, heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion. Again. Av harachamim, heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion. The next line. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, Kivecha levad batachnu. Let's do that in two chunks. Repeat after me. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. You try. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, Kivecha levad batachnu. You try. Kivecha levad batachnu. The whole line. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, Kivecha levad batachnu. Let's just do those two lines. Av harachamim, heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion, Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, Kivecha levad batachnu. Listen. Melech Eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. You try. Melech Eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Same as Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Melech Eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. You try. Melech Eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. And then we do ya-na-na-na-nai, 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 ya-na-na-na-nai. Then we do the whole thing as a nigun, as a wordless melody, okay? So if the words are feeling hard for you, join me now just in the wordless melody. Hi-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai, ya-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai, ya-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai, hi-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai. B. Ya-na-na-na-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai, ya-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai, 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 ya-nai-nai-nai, ya-na-na-na-nai. All right, give me a thumbs. Where are our thumbs? Up, sideways, down. Great, some ups. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So that is part one. In the recordings that I sent you in the email this morning, the attached audio files, what we just learned, that's one distinct audio file. I gave this to you as several audio files, so I don't know. So it wouldn't feel so overwhelming. And because there's different music for the different parts of this Torah service. So that's part number one. Part number two, you see it says the ark is opened. Please stand. Right? So that's what happens. We open the ark. And just to point out for a moment, the Hebrew of what we just chanted has nothing to do with the Torah. Funny way to start a Torah service. None of this liturgy is about the Torah. It's all about God. And it's all declarative statements about, well, mostly declarative statements about the greatness and incomparability of God. And I suspect this is, I don't quote me on this, and I haven't seen this in scholarship, but I suspect that the reason that the Torah service opens with passages about God as opposed to Torah is because as much as the rabbis absolutely and fully adored Torah and were devoted to living a life of meaningful engagement with the Torah, they were a little bit nervous about Torah worship instead of God worship. Right? I mean, that's the other thing to say about the parading of the Torah. I've heard people say to me, this is the closest Judaism comes to idolatry. Right? The way that we treat the Torah and the carefulness and the reverence that we show it. Some people feel that it's like a little too much. It's like it feels like we're worshiping this thing. And so I suspect, again, just a theory, that maybe the reason to create liturgy for a Torah service that opens with declarative statements about the greatness and incomparability of God is to sort of respond to the unspoken concern or critique around Torah idolatry. Anyway, just a thought. Do with it what you may. Now we go to the Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron, which is a direct quote from the book of Numbers. As the ark was carried forward, Moses would say, Adonai, rise up and scatter your foes so that your enemies flee your presence. Torah shall go forth from Zion, and the word of Adonai from Jerusalem praises the one who gave Torah to the people Israel in holiness. So it starts with a quotation around the ark, which, as I said before, the ark which contained the tablets of the Ten Commandments, which is sort of proto-Torah, right? This is the Torah that the Israelites in the wilderness would have sort of, would have related similarly to. And it was, right, it was carried as part of the tabernacle, and it was thought to have these, protective powers. And then finally, Torah shall go forth from Zion. Praise is the one who gave Torah to the people Israel in holiness. Now that starts, I think, to make sense. Those are the sort of blessings you would expect as a Torah service, or as the gratitude that we would be expressing on the precipice of bringing out the Torah and reading from it. Okay. So different melody. Listen to how the first line Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron goes. Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron vayomer Moshe. Very different musically. I think I don't know, feels like a major to minor shift, although I don't know for sure if what we just did was in the major or the minor, but it's got an eerier melody here. Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron vayomer Moshe. You try that. Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron vayomer Moshe. Let's do it again. Vayehi bin Soa Ha'aron vayomer Moshe. And now, dramatically, Kuma Adonai. You try. Kuma Adonai. Again. Kuma Adonai. Ve'afutzu oivecha. Ve'afutzu oivecha. Let's just do those 4 words. Kuma Adonai. Ve'afutzu oivecha. Ve'anusu misanecha. Try that. Ve'anusu misanecha. Mi panecha. Try that. Mi. Ve'anu. Misanecha. Mi. Let's do it from the top, shall we? Puma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'anusu misanecha, mihi panecha. Again, Puma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, Ve'anusu misanecha mihi panecha ki mitzion teitze Torah. Let's just try that. Ki mitzion teitze Torah. Again. Ki mitzion teitze Torah udvar Adonai mi'Yerushalayim. It's going to be hard to jump into the musical phrase there, so let's just do it from the beginning. Ki mitzion. Okay, so we just did Puma Adonai ve'afutzu oivecha ve'anusu misanecha mihi panecha ki mitzion teitze Torah udvar Adonai mi'Yerushalayim. I. Try that. I. Baruch Shenatan. Try that. Baruch Shenatan. We then repeat that Shenatan word. Shenatan Torah. Try that. Shenatan Torah. So again. Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael Bikdushato. That's hard. That's really hard. Let's do it from Baruch Shenatan. Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael Bikdushato. Wordless melody. Yai, nai, nai. Yai, nai, na, na, nai. Yai, nai, na, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, nai, yai, nai, na, 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 nai. Yai, nai, na, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai. It's hard. The music for this section is hard. It's really all over the map musically. So let's sing it together by Hibin Soaron through Le'amo Yisrael Bikdushato. Okay, the ark is opened. We've rised. Vayehibin Soaron Vayomer Moshe Uma Adonai Ve'afutzu oivecha Ve'anusu misanecha Mihi panecha Ki mitzion Teitze Torah Udvar Adonai. Sorry. Udvar Adonai Mirushalayim. Ay, Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael Bikdushato. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Right, there's a little bit of in the filler space, like Ross and Gary and Janine will do no 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 no. So I deputize you to be the no 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 people as well. All right. How we doing? Yeah? Um, hmm. Let's move on. Let's move on. We'll do the whole thing. We'll do the whole thing in a bit, but let me show you what comes next. Okay? And I have a feeling you are a little bit more familiar with what comes next. In part because it is, thank the Lord, call and response. Call and response. All right. So you see on the bottom of the transliteration page, it says, congregation repeats each line after the shots. Shots, let me give you a little bit of inside baseball here. Shots is a Hebrew acronym. It stands for Shaliach Tzibur, which is traditionally the name of the person who leads the community in prayer. Not rabbi, not cantor, Shaliach Tzibur. And it's actually a lovely, lovely phrase, a lovely title. It means a shaliach is like a messenger or an emissary. And tzibur means community. So the prayer leader is a messenger on behalf of the community, an emissary of the community. So that's what a shaliach tzibur is, and the abbreviation is SHATS, shaliach tzibur. I guess that's the acronym. So if you were to see it in Hebrew, you would see a shin and then what we call a chupchik. Is that a technical term? Like the quotation marks, a chupchik, and then a tzadi, shaliach tzibur. And by the way, our rabbinic intern, Jacob Schatz, I suspect, and it's spelled Schatz. I suspect he comes from a line of prayer leaders. And he actually quite literally does, because his father, Gail, is a Shaliach Tzibur and a cantor, but I suspect that this name goes way back. But he pronounces it Schatz. So it's a long, whatever that is with the A, Schatz, instead of Schatz. Okay, all right. So here we go. You can actually just repeat after me. This is how it goes. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You try Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Would it be helpful to break that down into smaller phrases, or does that one feel more or less familiar? Yeah, I can't hear anything you all are saying.
More or less familiar.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's just do it again, okay? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Community says, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Shatz says, Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. You respond, Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. And then we all say together, facing the ark, bowing as we recite the word Gadlu. Gadlu Ladonai Itiune Romima Shemo Yachdav. Same melody as Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Gadlu Ladonai Iti Uneromim Hashemo Yachdav. We then carry that melody through this paragraph. I'll bring it up on the English as well. The Torah procession paragraph. This is what is being sung while the Torah is being paraded around the community for the first time, right? This is the procession which ends up with the Torah on the Torah table about to be chanted from, right? So we just did Gadlu Ladonai iti Romim Hashemo Yachdav. The challenge about what comes next is not the melody. You know the melody. It's the same Shema Echad Gadlu melody. It's now fitting this melody onto a lot of Hebrew words. Sometimes a lot of them bunched together really closely. So I'm not going to sort of teach this phrase by phrase, but let's just try to sing it together slowly. You know the melody, and we'll do it twice through, okay? So again, we just did Gadlu Ladonai iti uneromim hashemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula vehagevura vehatiferet vehanetzach vehahod kichol bashamayim uvaretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha vehamitnaseh Lechol Rosh Romemuhu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehadam raglav kadoshu Romemuhu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kadsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu yana na 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 ya na ya na na ya na 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 ya na 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 na. All right, you see how the melody, same melody, just maps onto these words, and it just takes time, right? Practicing pronouncing these words and figuring out exactly how the words map onto the melody and the melody maps onto the words, but let's just do it once more so we can practice it slowly together. So again, we just did Gadlu Ladonai iti uneromim hashemo yachdav lecha Adonai ha-yedula veha-yevura vehatiferet Ve'hanetzach ve'hahod kichol bashamayim u'va'aretz lecha Adonai ha'mamlacha ve'hamitnaseh lechol rosh Romemuhu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehadam raglav kadoshu Romemuhu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kadsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu yana na 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 ya na 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 ya na na and over and over and over again. Okay. So there's the call and response, all the same melody. Shema, Shema. That's part A. B, Echad, Echad. Back to A, Gadlu, said all together. And then, A, B for this big paragraph, all the same melody. All right, any Just take a moment to see all of you at the same time. Any questions about anything we've done up to this point? Okay. Feeling increasingly comfortable with this portion of the service? Great. All right. So Torah is now on the Torah table. The Gabbai, that's the name of the person who is calling people up for the aliyot and then blessing them after they've chanted the aliyah. Gabbai is calling people up for the first aliyah, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? Typical Shabbat, there are 7 aliyot, and then one more called the maftir aliyah, which is usually just a repetition of a portion of the 7th aliyah. And you will notice, if you haven't connected these dots already, that whoever is called up for the maftir aliyah, not the person necessarily who's chanting from the Torah, but the person who blesses the Torah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vahed. Right, the person who does that, that's the person who's called up for the aliyah. And the person who is called up for the maftir aliyah is the same person who will then chant the haftarah. So on weeks where we have a b'nai mitzvah and the 13-year-old is chanting the haftarah, they will be called up for the maftir aliyah, and that's when we do our big, grand, no one does it like Rabbi David Kasher. Na lamod, please come up, please come up. You know, Shlomo, child of Ruvain and Baruch, maftir, chazak, right? That we call them up, they do their aliyah, and then we finish up with the Torah. We do Hagba, right? And then we dress the Torah, we wrap the Torah, and we don't yet put it away. The Torah is still off to the side, being held by someone, because after all, we wouldn't want the Torah to miss out on the Haftarah. I mean, think about it. 5 books of Moses, real cliffhanger, literally, right? The story ends with Moses, with the children of Israel, right, looking out over the Jordan, wondering what comes next. Will they make it to the promised land? What will life be like there? That's where the 5 books of Moses ends. That's where the Torah scroll ends. The Haftarah is a selection, right, chosen specifically in alignment with that week's Torah portion, a selection from the other 2 sections of Tanakh, from the N of Tanakh, which is Nevi'im, prophets. That's your Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and confusingly also your Joshua and Judges and First Samuel and First Kings. That's all the Nevi'im, prophets, part of the Hebrew Bible. The vast majority of the Haftorahs are excerpts from a particular prophet, prophetic writing. And then some of them are from Ketuvim, from writings. That's the rest of the Bible. That's the Psalms and Proverbs and the 5 Megillas, right? The Esther and Jonah and so forth. And well, actually, Esther is post-biblical, but and then First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. All right, if I've lost you, the point is just, this was all in service of a really nerdy rabbi joke, which was that the Torah is not put away until after the Haftarah is chanted, and the Haftarah is a selection from prophets or writings. And it sounds a little bit like what was just chanted from the Torah with a little bit of a different musical system. If you'd like to someday learn the musical systems that accompany the chanting of the Torah or the Haftarah, I would say just about every year we've offered a class that Hillel teaches where he teaches folks how to chant from the Torah or Haftarah. and then you get a chance to offer that skill in service of your community on some Shabbat morning. So there you have it. So the Haftarah is chanted, and now finally it's time to put the Torah away. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Now in the Siddur, there's a lot of pages in between where we last left off. 9, 9, and 9, and 9, 9, and 9, right? Between what comes next, because what the Siddur, what the prayer book has is the blessings that are chanted when you come up for an aliyah, some of the mishaberachs, right? The blessing over those in need of healing is there, various other blessings. The words we say over Hagba, Haftarah words, okay, it goes on and on and on. We pick up on, well, typically we pick up with Ashrei. So if you recall, we saw Ashrei once before. We saw Ashrei right after the Ki Le'olam Chasto prayer, way back in Psuke. It's the exact same psalm repeated again in the Siddur here. But the truth is, we usually sort of rush our way through this at IKAR, so I'm not going to take time to talk about the Ashrei right now. This is really where we come back in. Okay, so we are on page 183 in the Lev Shalem, and in the transliteration guide, we are oh, come on. Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. Nope. There we go. Okay. Do you see it? We're eight. Well, actually, it doesn't really have it. Oh, it says here. I'm sorry. It says Ashrei and Mizmor LeDavid are transliterated in the Siddur. How nice, Siddur. Meaning, this prayer that we sing as the Torah is being processed around the congregation for the second time, the transliteration is on the same page as the Hebrew. Okay, so let me just sing this to you for a moment. You'll recognize it, and then we'll move on because it's again a lot of Hebrew, and we're not gonna tackle this one right now. But just so you hear what it sounds like. Ark is opened. Torah is about to be returned to the ark, but it first has to do a victory lap around the congregation. That's, by the way, what I say to every B'nai Mitzvah kid. It's like, it really feels like their victory lap, right? They've just chanted from the Torah and they've given their drash and all of that. So this is what we do. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, ay na 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 ya na 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 na, ya na 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 ya na 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 na, ay na 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 ya na 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 na, on and on and on and on and on until the Torah is back at the ark. So that's a bigger project for a different day, but just so you hear and can locate, this is what happens as the Torah is returned to the ark. And then the Torah is placed back in the ark, and we sing quite often these bolded lines. And that's the melody that I want to teach you right now. In the English transliteration, it's these three lines. Okay, I'm trying to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. This is lovely Hebrew. It's, I think, very fitting, maybe the best words that could have been chosen as we close out the Torah service, as we say goodbye to the Torah that we've just spent the last 45 minutes with, of which we are grateful for and of which we try to live our lives by. And we say about the Torah, it is a tree of life for those who grasp it, and all who hold on to it. It says are blessed. I would really say are content. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us toward you, Adonai, and we will return. Make our days seem fresh as they once were. Funny translation. Renew our days as of old. That's the translation I grew up with. But really lovely, lovely liturgy here. Interestingly, the context of this, its original source is in the book of Proverbs, and it's not about Torah. It's about wisdom, but the rabbis co-opted this proverb and said, well, what is the ultimate source of wisdom? The Torah. So the Torah is a tree of life for those who grasp onto it, and that's how they grafted it onto this portion of the service. All right, let's learn this. I suspect some of you might know this. This is a melody that is I would say common beyond IKAR. This is, I think, a staple at many synagogues. All right, so it goes like this. Eitz Chaim Hi, you try. Eitz Chaim Hi. Again, Eitz Chaim Hi. Lama chazikim ba, you try. Lama chazikim ba again. Lama chazikim ba. Let's do those 4 words, 5 words again. Eitz chaim hi. Lama chazikim ba again. Eitz chaim hi. Lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha. You try. V'tomcheha meushar. Meushar. Eitz chaim hi. Lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar. Again, Eitz chaim hi. Lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar. Melody repeats, new line. Deracheha, right? Eitz chaim hi. Deracheha, you try. Deracheha. Darchei noam. Darchei noam. Deracheha, darchei noam, v'chol netivoteha, v'chol netivoteha, shalom, shalom, right? V'tomcheha meushar, v'chol netivoteha shalom. Same, right? This is A, right? In terms of the music in the first line and the second line. Let's sing those 2 lines together. Eitz chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tomcheha meushar. Deracheha, darchei noam, v'chol netivoteha shalom. Good. 3rd line. Music's a little bit different. Hashivenu Adonai. You try that. Hashivenu Adonai. Elecha v'nashuva. Let's do that whole phrase. It's hard to isolate the music, or at least it's hard for me here to isolate the music, one phrase to the next. So let me sing those 4 words, and then we'll sing together those four words. Okay? So we just did V'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Okay. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva. Let's do it again. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva. Listen. Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. That strikes me as sort of one of the most haunting, sort of classic, almost like a Jewish melody. Hillel could really explain this to you, but if you were to, ask someone to play a standard Ashkenazi Jewish melody, I'm sure it would be using the musical scale that phrase is written in, with the, whatever the flatted seventh or whatever it is, right? That progression of notes is what people think of when they think of the ya ba 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 bye bye bye, right? That's sort of a classic Ashkenazi oy vey melody. Okay, so let's just do those. Let's try to break down those last 3 words. I know it's a little tough. So we just did V'nashuva Chadesh. You try that. Chadesh. Chadesh Yameinu. Chadesh Yameinu. Chadesh Yameinu. Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Kekedem. Chadesh. Chadesh Yameinu. Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Let's just try from Hashivenu through Kekedem. Okay, just the last line. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Eitz chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. The ark is closed, and it's sermon time. Anyone have any ideas? I'm droshing this Shabbos. Anyone have any pitches that could help me come up with an idea? No. Okay. All right. So, wow. So you just learned the Torah service. That's the whole thing, right? We are about to head into a sermon, but head into Chatzi Kaddish, which is really the transition prayer, as I said earlier, into Musaf. And Musaf is 90% Amidah, which we learned last week, and then 10% closing prayers, which unfortunately we won't have time to learn in this prayer book series, but closing prayers being what's called Kaddish Shalem. That's where Hillel usually does the right into Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach Adon hakol. And then it goes quiet usually into Mourner's Kaddish, into how we close out IKAR, which is the Ein Keloheinu in Hebrew and in Ladino. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Yanananai, Yanananai, Yanananai. So that then takes you through the end of the service. It's 11:58. Yasher koach to your rabbis and Hillel for moving through the service with both intentionality, spirituality, and pace. And then we head outdoors for Kiddush and lunch. And that, friends, is the Shabbat morning service, which you have now learned over the course of 5 weeks. So pat yourself on the back. Really, I really thank you and bless you for signing up for this class. This was the first time, at least in my 4 years at IKAR, that we've run something like this. And I hope it was helpful. And really the goal, the top goal was to give folks an experience outside of Shabbat services that will help you feel more comfortable, more familiar, more able to participate in the Shabbat morning services with a little bit more of a sense of what's going on and what it all means. This was, I hope, a gift that you've given yourself so that when you show up on Shabbat morning, you'll get that much more from the experience. Rabbi Panitz at IKAR.org. I think you all know how to reach me if you'd like to follow up, have any continued conversations, or pitch what the next class is that I should teach. But I wish you all a Chag Purim Sameach, a happy Purim. I hope to be with many of you either in person or virtually tomorrow night. And look at this. I finished at 8:28. So even if our service ends not at 11:58, the class tonight ends at 8:28. But I'm going to spend 2 minutes congratulating myself so that it's up to 8:30. All right. Take care, folks. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, all of you, and
Thank you
Rabbi
very
Kiva
much.
especially.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Bye,
Rabbi. This is
everyone.
amazing.